Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to Listen Up Podcast. I'm your host, Al Neely, and today we have special guest, Megan Stover. Megan, would you say hello to everyone?
Hello, everyone.
All right. So let me tell you a little bit about Megan. Megan is the owner of Elite Laundry Services, the owner of White Sage 757, and her mantra is finding yourself after 40. She's also a belly dancer, and she's here to talk about her personal experiences with us. And let's jump right into it.
There we go.
So your mantra, finding yourself after 40. Tell me, what did you do before 40, man? What was your life like before 40?
Ooh.
Why did it take you that long to find yourself?
It took me that long to find myself because I was living up to everybody else's expectations.
Okay.
And afraid to step out regardless of culture, family upbringing, and all of that, and just come into myself and who I wanted to be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned culture and family upbringing.
Yep.
Let's talk about your family upbringing. What was that like?
So I was raised in a very religious Christian home.
Okay.
As I've shared my story, some people would say that it could be considered a cult.
Wow. Okay.
There was just a lot of rules, a lot of expectations. And
Where are you from?
I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Okay.
I lived there for 13 years.
Okay.
And then my parents moved here in 93 to help start a church.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what denomination?
Ooh, great question.
Right.
It was Baptist, but what I've learned over the last few years is that there's different like strands of, I'm going to say like intensity within each.
Baptist church?
Well, within any religion. And
Oh,
so,
really?
yes. And
Okay.
so like my Baptist that I was part of was called Independent Fundamental Baptist. And so whenever you put fundamental with a religion, it's like next level.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be like the strictest,
Correct.
most
Correct.
stringent foundation that you might have. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Most definitely.
Okay. So
Yeah.
your parents moved here when?
So we moved here in 93. I was 13. And the church that we had gone to in Fayetteville was Southern Baptist. So
Wasn't as fundamental?
it wasn't as fundamental, no. We still, up to that point, like I still had not worn pants.
No.
Still had not worn pants. But when I moved here to 13, we wore these things called culottes. And they're like, they came to your knee and they're just like baggy shorts. And so that's what all of the girls wore. But then when we came here and the church that we went to, it was this independent fundamental. And so
You couldn't even wear that?
You wore skirts like down to mid calf, and you did not wear shoes that had like open toes and open heels. It had to be covered. You had to wear shirts with sleeves. Like you couldn't wear big earrings. Your hair had to be long, no makeup.
Did they ever explain to you what was the purpose of that?
Well, there are different Bible verses that they would pull for each rule that they had. And
Keep
so
you in check, huh?
yes, yes.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, the main reason for the clothing was so that men would not lust after women, is what they would say.
Okay.
Yeah. So you just.
The temptation.
Correct. So
Okay.
if you wore baggy clothes, the temptation is not there as much.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about that?
I'm a man, so I would probably say it's not so much. I mean, of course, you have to have some stimulus, but it's more your imagination,
Yeah.
right? So you can pick something out about anyone that's attractive, and then your mind can just go to different places.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, there's all kind of shenanigans going on inside the church as there are outside, but we won't get into all of that today.
Okay, as long as you promise.
But so like, I'm like, what the hell was, I don't know if you can cuss on this podcast, but
You can do whatever
I'm like,
you like.
you know what in the world? Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that is their way of just controlling people.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So you got here at 13.
Got here at 13.
And you were in public school?
Oh, no.
Oh, really?
Oh, no. So before coming here, I was in the church that we had gone to. They had like a private school there. And so I went there. And then when we moved here, the church was brand new getting started. And so my parents put us into Providence Christian School over off Providence, which was a very small school. And they did these ACE packets. That was like the style of education that it was. And there's cubicles.
What is that?
There's cubicles all around the edge of the room. And so the idea is that your chair faces in so that, you're not talking to anybody else or being distracted. And so these little packets are whatever your work is for the week. And so you get done that work like within the week. And then once you're done with that, you move on to the next one. So that's where I started off when I was here. And I would have been, I was either 8th or 9th grade when I was there.
So they don't have different levels. You can't tell what grade you're in, and you just can't remember.
I can't remember. I was 13. So 13 was probably 8th grade. So I think I was in 8th grade. And then after that, getting ready to go into high school, all of the people at the church were like talking about like, what do we do with these kids? Because they're going into high school. And, we can't have them over here at this school because they may be exposed to something that we don't want them exposed to.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
History is like one of my things. What did they teach you in school about like history and politics and sociology? Tell me.
I don't even remember anything
Okay,
about
gotcha.
that. No. In
Did
fact,
you learn about, George Washington chopped down the cherry tree?
I think I learned about that.
Okay.
I remember, some of that, but like history is not my thing. My thing is English.
Did they talk about Abraham Lincoln freeing the slaves in the end?
They did.
Okay,
They did.
gotcha. All right, I just
They
wondered.
talked about a few basic things.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, they were trying to figure out like what to do with these teenagers that were getting ready to go into high school, how to shelter them. Mm-hmm. And so they started a little homeschool out of somebody's house. And so I was one of the select few that got to go with, I think, 7 other kids. So there was 8 of us total. And we met in somebody's dining room.
Oh.
And that's where we had school. And then shortly after that, they did open a school at the church. And so then the next year, I believe, is when I went there and then finished out high school there and graduated with 2 other people.
Fantastic. Did you have a prom?
No, you couldn't dance. You didn't dance. You didn't listen to that kind of music. You only listened to hymns. No drums.
Really?
So it couldn't even be a hymn with a drum.
All right, be honest. Did you ever sneak off and listen to, any other type of music, any hip hop or rock and roll?
Sometimes I would like catch stuff on TV. And so there are some tunes that I remember from back then, and like being out in the store there, but no, I didn't. I was
like
too
Tupac
scared.
and Biggie and all of those. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
No.
That wasn't allowed, huh?
Oh, no. Well, hell no.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So after high school, did you get married? Date?
I did.
Okay.
I did. So,
What's dating like? What was that like?
Yeah, my parents wanted me to date within the church. And so our church was about several hundred people. And, that's grandparents all the way down to newborns. So there were not a lot of eligible bachelors. So I did date, but again, there just wasn't.
So they selected your husband for you?
Some people would say that, yes, because they were just like, you need to date somebody that's here at the church. And somebody did come from Southern California, surfer boy. And I thought he was cute. We got to know each other and we did develop a friendship and eventually, fell in love. And he asked me to marry him. And I said, yes. So we got married. Yeah. And then.
I have to go there.
Okay, go there.
Dating.
Yeah.
What was dating like?
Oh, you did not touch at all. So when
before you got married, you never kissed this guy?
No. Never
Did you
kissed.
touch him?
We did hold hands. Scandalous. We did hold hands and we rode in. You weren't even allowed to go anywhere by yourself with the person. There always had to be a chaperone. And so when you sat next to him, you had to have 6 inches. 6 inches in between you and them. And there was one time that we did sneak off. Again, scandalous. He came and picked me up at work and we went to Chick-fil-A together. And I remember we were driving to Chick-fil-A and we were coming down General Booth. And as we were waiting to turn into the Chick-fil-A there, I look over across the road. And of course, because we're doing something we're not supposed to be doing, I'm on high alert. And so I look over and I see somebody and I think it's one of his friends. And I'm like, oh no. And I was like, there goes. And I said his name and Al, oh my God. All of a sudden, boom, I went down like that in the car so that the guy would not see me.
Because you weren't supposed to be with
Because
them?
we weren't supposed to be alone.
Okay, so what would have happened if they saw you guys?
Oh, wow. You really want to know?
Yeah.
Well, by that time, I don't think I was getting a beating. So there's that. But you would have, whenever there was somebody that was doing something outside of whatever was not supposed to be done, you became the topic of the Sunday evening sermon.
Oh, really? So that wouldn't sit well with me.
Right. It's
You want to draw attention to your people that to embarrass you. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Well, and I'm going to bring up the word shame.
Yeah.
Because yes, it causes shame. And so then you wind up living with that shame. That shame follows you throughout your life. And so, yeah. And I think the idea was that the more shame that they make you feel, right, the less you're going to do something, because who wants to feel ashamed about something?
Yeah.
But yes, the pastor, on Sunday night was hellfire damnation sermon. And so on Sunday nights, you always knew that whoever did something the week before, you were going to find out about it.
You got to repent or you're going to hell.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. So he would come down. Sometimes he would stand right in front of you. Yeah. And then at the end, there would be an altar call. And so you always knew if the person repented, because if they would go forward to the altar and pray.
All right. So how many times did he come down and stand in front of you?
Oh, I have been known to
multiple times?
Yes.
All right. For what? What'd you do? Come on. Tell us what you did.
Oh, I remember right after we moved to the church or moved here to start going to that church, they really had to, they would call it break your will. And so they would break your will through spankings. And so I had rolled my eyes at one of the leaders, and they came and told my parents that I had rolled my eyes. And I was brought into the pastor's office one night after like everybody had gone. And the door had like these glass windows in it and with blinds, so that if he was doing like counseling or something like that, you know, he could open the blinds so that there would be like accountability of what was like going on in there. So they closed the blinds so that like you couldn't see inside. And my dad had me put like my hands on the edge of the desk, and he took his belt off and like began beating me right there in the pastor's office. And
Your father?
correct. And so I don't even remember getting home. I think that I passed out in the office that night. And then
Was it that painful?
I fell down. I remember just like crumbling and just falling down. And my aunt was in town. My aunt did not go to the same church. In fact, we weren't really allowed to socialize a lot with our extended family because they may influence you outside of like the religion and all of that. And so, but my aunt was in town that night.
You mean like a cult would?
Correct.
Gotcha.
And when I got home, she knew that, you could see that I had been crying, and I was in my room, and she wanted me to like pull my pants down so that, she wanted me to pull my skirt down so that she could see, you know, my backside. And I just kept telling her no. I was too scared. Like I knew that if I showed her, there was a possibility that she would report my parents to social services, which
How old
that
were you?
scared. 13.
Okay.
Maybe 14, because I don't remember what month we moved here. I just know we moved when I was 13, and then I turned 14 in November. So It was either 13 or early 14.
Gotcha.
And that incident, what they did, I mean, it did what they wanted it to do. Like after that, I fell in line, and I just was trying to do the best that I could in order to not get that again and to try to please those in authority.
Yeah, it's, to me, that makes me feel bad, really sad. But that's one time. You said
So that was rolling the eyes.
okay.
And we got on this conversation because we were talking about dating.
Well, we got on a conversation because we asked with the pastor what would take place, and I just wanted to know if you've had the experience of being called out in church to be shamed.
So there was a time that like there was one time that I wore like a t-shirt, and it was a little snug. And so like it pulls right here. And I got called out for that. It was too tight.
Wow.
It was just the most simple, basic things that they would. I mean, there was other things too, right? But they would literally just preach at you for whatever they felt like didn't fall in line with
Wow.
their belief system.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you started dating this guy, how old you said you were 18?
I was 19
Okay.
because I graduated in June and I was 18, and then I turned 19 that November, and he came in December.
Gotcha.
Yep, he came in December.
Was he as staunch as...
He grew up in a Southern Baptist church and kind of had like done his own thing, you know, as a teenager, was having fun and all of that. And then he joined the Navy and went to boot camp and then got stationed here in Norfolk. And as soon as he got stationed here in Norfolk, he went on deployment. And while he was on deployment, he met a guy, the same guy that I thought was across the street. He met that guy. He met that guy on this deployment and started going to a Bible study together. And what's funny is the guy had actually even told him about me while they were on deployment together. And so then when he got back, like we met, there was somebody else that was interested in him, So I kind of like just pulled back a little bit, but then they wound up working that out, and then we started talking. Yeah. But I do believe that so he's now my ex-husband. I've been through a divorce. But we were married for 20 years before the divorce was finalized. But we separated in the 19th year. And so, yes, he really liked the structure of that. And it was just really good for his like personality. And it brought him back to like his faith. So, yeah. Yeah.
Do you have children?
We have 3.
Oh,
I say
awesome.
we had 3 together. Yes. My oldest is 21. My middle daughter is 19. And my youngest, she just graduated. She's 18. Yeah.
Okay. You have other children outside of the marriage?
No, just those 3.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
Wow. So tell me about married life.
Well,
Did it just extend, you just stayed in that cycle the whole time, that structure,
yes.
where you're expected to stay in that?
Yes.
Okay.
So women in this religion.
Right. Now that you were married, could you wear tighter shirts?
No.
Okay.
And I didn't wear pants.
Really?
So I got married at 21.
Yeah.
Didn't wear pants till I was 30.
Really?
Not even to bed. Not even to bed. You could not wear pants because you could not like, you know how you're talking about the imagination?
Yeah.
And like, even if you're in a dress, you can still like imagine the silhouette of somebody, right?
Yeah.
Even if they're in a dress. But yeah, you couldn't wear pants because it would actually like show the shape of your leg. So we didn't wear pants at all, not even to bed.
This had to be more for other men as opposed to him, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So women in this religion were taught to be like the homemakers, the support your man, which I still believe in supporting your man. So I don't want to say that, but it's more so supporting your man to your own, not detriment, but not in the sense of like you can just be who you want to be and do what you want to do.
Sounds like more to cater to his ego and his self-esteem. That's what it sounds like to me, but go ahead.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. And I think that a lot of people in the religion that is what it like boils down to. And I believe that the ones that are more loving, more empathetic, compassionate,
Are more confident in themselves.
correct.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
So yes, so that I'm trying to think of where we were at, but we were saying like the women's role. And so it was to have sex, but not for the women's pleasure at all. You just had sex, make babies, and then take care of the babies. And so
you're not going to tell me that you didn't have pleasure until after marriage, are you?
ooh, let's just say that at the beginning of, so I married as a virgin. I married because, I hadn't kissed him or anything like that. We did sneak and hold hands, right?
Right.
We snuck and hold hands, but our first kiss was at the altar. And then, yes, we had sex like on our wedding night.
Okay. I'm sorry. My mind's going nuts.
It's okay.
Okay. Do you remember the kiss? Did you think
It was
you kissed
awkward.
well?
It was just like, no, I had never kissed anybody.
Okay. No passion or?
None.
Okay.
I mean, you have to think like, I know it's weird sounding, but when you're taught that like you're not supposed to kiss and you don't kiss because it may lead to the next step. And then if you go to the next step, you're going to be the sermon illustration.
You might find out it's terrible or it's very passionate and you enjoy it.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
so
you had no way to figure that out. Go ahead.
None. And so like, yeah, So yes, we had sex after that. But then after that, having experienced that for the first time, and then a little bit even after that, I was like, ooh, Like I did like it and I did enjoy it.
Well, that's good.
Yes. But then I found myself being more, I wanted it more than he did.
Okay.
And there were many nights that I went to sleep crying because I wanted physical, intimate connection with my husband. And he was like too tired, or I don't know what else was going on outside of that, because you didn't have like open communication. Like, hey, baby, what's going on today? Like, women did not speak up. Women do not ask questions. It's like you're a zombie. You're just moving forward and doing what you're supposed to do in your day-to-day life. And so that is one of the, the sex thing is one of the things.
So you can we won't say his name. Okay. You just couldn't say, hey, we need to do this more often.
Oh, no. And maybe some did, but because of my programming, and I'm going to use that word because that's what it was. Because of my programming, I did not know how to speak up. And I think that if I did, I could have done that. But the times that I would blurt out the stuff that was in my head that I wanted to say, which was not effective.
Right.
And he would say, get off these nuts. And so then I would shut up.
Oh, that was his way. That was the actual term they use?
Yeah, he'd say, get off these nuts.
Okay.
And so I would stop. I would stop saying whatever it was that I was saying. And I would just carry on.
Do you think he enjoyed it?
Saying, get off these nuts?
No. The fact
the control or like the
just you said
dominance?
he didn't want it as often as you did. I'm going back to that. So do you think he just didn't enjoy it?
It could have been that.
You ever had a conversation with him?
No.
To this day?
Never to this day.
Wow.
We never talked about deep. Like mine and your conversation right now is more deep than any conversation that him and I ever had.
Oh. Yeah, that's not good.
No. No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So how long did it take you to realize you needed to be out of that marriage?
Well,
And what was the reasons for it?
So I did my duties and did what I was supposed to do, as a good wife. And when my oldest daughter was 14, so she's now 21, so 7 years ago, which would have made me 37. So when I was 37, my 14-year-old daughter came to me and said, Mom, why don't you ever speak up for yourself? And when she said that is when my eyes started opening up, which when I was 37, so that's 7 years after I started wearing pants, and the church that we were in, this cultist church, they had started loosening up a little bit. So some of the women did start wearing pants, but there was some shady financial things that were going on. And at the time, my ex-husband was one of the people that was on the financial board. And when he became on the financial board is when we actually started realizing that our thoughts that unscrupulous things were happening, they definitely were. And so over some time, we got the church together and called and tried to expose the pastor at that point in time. And shortly after that, we just left. And so once we left, we went to a church with less strict standards. And from 30 to 40 is when I transitioned from wearing pants and just becoming more like a normal human being.
So you agree that that lifestyle, that train of thought is not a normal one? And
can you be more specific?
Well, what do you consider normal?
I consider normal,
because I think
and
that's relative,
ideal,
right? Okay.
I think the ideal thing is for all humans to be able to experience and be free to experience life in the way that they want to and live authentically in the way that they want to live.
Okay.
That makes them happy without any regard to, like I mentioned earlier, society or religion or our culture.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you put it like that, then it's not normal. Right? Gotcha. All right. Wow. Interesting.
So yes, so from 30 to 40 was like my transition. At 37 is when my oldest came to me. After that is when I did start to like speak up a little bit, and it was like met with resistance. And then I got closer to 40 and I'm thinking, I have so much life left ahead of me. Like what I'm doing at this point, my husband was the last thing that held me to anything from like the religion, that cultish religion. And so I started becoming suicidal. Ooh. So I put myself in therapy. I went to a Christian therapist just so that it would be accepted by like my family. And I sat in her office and was asking things like, is it okay to get a divorce? Because that's how like brainwashed and programmed I was into this religion. And so
Well, Christianity teaches you that.
They do.
It doesn't matter. They say it's not okay.
Correct. And like I still value marriage.
Yeah. I think they say if you're not equally yoked. Mm-hmm. So I guess yoked is relative, I guess.
Well, and there's a wide range of beliefs, I think, even within Christians, when it comes to how they all feel about marriage and divorce. Mm-hmm. So, but yes.
Before you go on, tell me about your children. How old are they?
So they're 21, 19, and 18.
Okay, gotcha.
Now, yep. They were 14.
So the oldest one is the one that told you that? The oldest
yes.
one? Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
All right, so go ahead.
Yep. And then, so in 2020... the end of 2020 is when I asked for a separation. I sat different members of my family down and just said, like, this is what I need to do for my own mental health. And my plan was I need to just at least ask for a separation. I'm not even going to go in and say the big D word, because I don't know how they're going to react to that. And so let me just ask for a separation and like see how things play out.
Right. Is your parents still alive?
They are.
Did you have a conversation with them during that time?
Well, my dad had a stroke 6 years ago, and he is he's bound to a recliner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you can't really have a conversation like that with him. I did have a conversation with my mom.
Okay.
Yeah. And then my brother and sister-in-law.
What did your mother think?
My mom was okay, like in the moment, but then she came back and told me later that for about a week after that, she struggled. And then she finally got over. I think it's just, you've been married for 19 years. Everybody's used to this marriage and this family and what we all do together. And
you're around a bunch of people that can't accept a lot of change, huh?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So go ahead.
But she did come back later and she said that she didn't agree with it, but she would support me in whatever. And like that meant a lot to me, because like I already knew that she was not going to agree with a separation or a divorce. But the fact that she said that she would be there for me, that meant a lot. And then my sister and brother-in-law had a conversation with her, my sister, and she told my brother-in-law. And things have never been the same with them since.
Your sister?
My sister.
And she told
her
husband?
Correct.
What do you think happened there?
Well, at first they were uncomfortable coming into the house without my husband, at the time husband, there.
Explain that. That
well,
doesn't make any sense.
I mean, they're used to one thing and then...
Oh, we're back to that change thing that it's difficult for them to deal with the change. Okay, go ahead.
Difficult for them to deal with the change. And then my brother-in-law didn't like being the only man in the house. It was uncomfortable. So they were like, we're not coming over. And then on top of that, I had started drinking, which this is a whole nother conversation. Didn't drink till after I was 40. So I had a few bottles of liquor on the shelf. And so, that's unacceptable. And so
That's the
that
devil.
was just like the icing on the cake. Right here, I'll take a drink to that.
Yeah, that's the devil's juice there. Go ahead.
Right. So it was just, it was just, I don't even remember what the original question was. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
So, how did people take it when you were telling them you got divorced? Because you said you sat down, some of your family members.
I did, yeah.
Your children. What was it like for them?
They, as weird as this sounds, they thought that it was for the best. And even though they had to go through their own like grieving process,
Yeah.
they would never want their dad and I together.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So I take it you didn't raise them in that.
They were.
Did they go to public school?
My middle and youngest daughter did for a few years, but for them, they were. Well, my oldest was 6 when we left the cult church. So it was 6, 4, and 3. And we left the cult church. And so then for the last 14 years, we've been at more like free-spirited type churches where you're just a little bit more free to live life the way that you want to live. So they still have some things that they're dealing with themselves, especially my oldest, because she was in it the longest. And like there are other stories that I have in regards to my daughters that I regret. That, I just didn't speak up and stand up for them in the way that I would now. And so those are the hardest moments. But yeah.
Well, that's tough.
Yeah, it was really tough. I slept in my youngest daughter's closet for a month after the separation. So then that was really hard on her. And then my ex-husband would come in and like look in the closet to see like what I had going on in there and everything. I mean, divorce is weird. People act weird. But what
you had going on.
Yeah, he would like look at my journals, see what I had in the closet. I don't know if he was looking for alcohol. I don't know what he was looking for.
Sounds like he didn't have any privacy.
No.
Did he have privacy?
I didn't go through his things like that.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah.
That's pretty hypocritical, isn't it? Yeah.
And what's interesting is, so remember I said I asked for a separation? I really wanted to see how he would behave.
Right.
After we just separate. And the crazy thing about it is more of our conversations that we had were, how do we figure all of our shit out in order to plan for divorce? And so it's interesting because ultimately, like if he wanted to stay married and try to reconcile, his actions were not aligning with what possibly his thoughts were. But he was really hurt. I mean, I'm the one that asked for the separation. And it went the way that it did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, finding yourself.
Yes.
Now that you've found yourself, let's talk about what things do you enjoy that you weren't able to. You've been, how many years has it been since you?
4.
4 years. Okay. So what has your life been like since?
Oh, free.
Okay.
If I were to sum it all up, it's just free. And what I've learned about myself is that I am truly a free spirit.
Gotcha.
Are
you happy?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact,
you didn't even hesitate on that.
No.
Gotcha.
Even when I'm like run into people out and about, like I ran into somebody at Food Lion the other day that I haven't seen in over 5 years.
Right.
And she was like, "You look so happy." And I'll have people message me on Facebook.
Yeah.
But yes, I am so free. And I just love being able to, this is going to sound so weird for so many people. I love the fact that I can just go out and experience whatever the hell I want to experience without any judgment for anybody. Because it doesn't even
matter. Isn't that a great feeling?
Yes.
Yeah. And then, you're a business owner. You're responsible for your income.
I am.
Right.
Yep.
So that gives you a little more freedom.
A little bit.
Yeah. So do you attend church now?
Hell no.
Oh, wow.
Hell no.
Wow.
I don't know. So I did try to go a few times.
You have some trauma?
I do, but I just don't believe in organized religion anymore.
Let's talk about that. Okay.
Okay.
Why don't you believe in it? What obviously a relationship like that would give you pause as to once you've gotten your freedom to say, okay, there's just things that we shouldn't experience as a human being, or we shouldn't constantly put ourselves under.
Yeah.
We're only here for a short period of time. I would imagine you're thinking of that.
Right.
And you don't want to be in a situation where you're living in a box or a cage when there's all of these things that you can experience. I understand that because I feel like that, right? I want to do all the things that I want to do.
Exactly.
And I also want to help as many people as I can help. That's why I have a podcast. But you can't do that with limits that someone else puts on you.
Right.
Right. So I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So explain to me about, what are your thoughts about religion? What are you feeling now?
I feel like we all are believing the same thing. It's just called something different. That's just like a generalized statement.
Gotcha.
But when you look at a lot of different religions, they're all doing a lot of the same things. They're just calling it something different. So for instance, like somebody who's spiritual would call something manifesting. Somebody who's like a Christian would call it praying. And like, I can't think of like what the Hindus call it or the Buddhists call it or that kind of thing. But it's those types of ideas to where we are all doing the same things. They're just called different. They're just called something different.
Yeah. So
and
do you think Christianity teaches us that all the other religions are not the actual religion?
right.
So
Right.
What is your feeling about that? That all the other religions are not validated. And it's probably just in this country, but I'm sure if we went to Iran, they would say you're Christian, it's not the same, or
Right.
yeah. So
I tend to be more so a conspiracy theorist.
oh my, no, man.
So for me, it's like in my mind, I'm thinking, was all of this a means to control people?
Sometimes I feel like that, and it's obvious. And
There's a lot of
yeah. I think when it's taken in the wrong, like now we're going through a whole period in this country where the whole purpose is to try to control people.
Yeah.
Right now. So I definitely see that. Go ahead.
Yeah, because it's weird. The whole Christianity thing is weird. Now, again, I grew up being taught this, so I know what they're going to say.
Right.
But, why it does not add up to me why only certain books made it into the Bible. Now, they would say that it's because it's like the inerrant word of God and these were the ones that were chosen and yada, yada. But there's so many other books that talk about a lot of stuff that was going on that did not make it into the Bible. And I'm not saying that to try to bash the Bible. I think that the Bible is an amazing piece of literature that we can learn a lot from.
Gotcha.
No, I do. Like,
I understand
very
your point.
inspiring.
I understand your point.
Inspiring. Faith is inspiring.
Right.
Believing in a higher power, it gives
Right.
us hope, right?
Right.
But I believe that people have fucked it up.
Right. And I understand that. And I understand your point about
Right.
all the other things that are going on that are
Right.
not in the Bible, because I like history, right? So I'm like, you had Indians that were living in the hills in what we call now Colorado before Jesus set foot in Nazareth, right? So I'm like, we're just going to ignore that, or?
I can tell you, like, I can pretty much only tell you like what I was taught.
When I say, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said
Yeah.
Indians, indigenous people. So my friend Sarah would smack me if that was the case. Okay, but go ahead.
I guess you got out of getting smacked.
Yeah, she's not here.
Right.
Go ahead.
What were you saying? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get you off track. I was
I know,
just saying,
I
I understand that it's how you would look at that and go, okay, all these other things were taking place before, during, or around the same time. I mean, well, before, during, or now, and none of it or is in the Bible, or we don't talk about it.
Exactly.
And you can't dismiss it.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And so it's just, I don't know how, I don't know. I'm just lost.
Yeah.
I mean, I've kind of settled into my own belief system now, which is more so just a spiritual outlook on life. I do still
Talk about that. Yeah.
I do still believe in God, but differently. And I guess I say differently because for me, it is different than the God that I grew up hearing about.
Okay.
So the God that I grew up like and was taught was like God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. Like it's the Trinity, 3 in 1, and yada yada. And I don't necessarily believe that anymore. I believe that Jesus is just a man, a prophet, just like Buddha.
Oh my. You're not going to be able to go around your friends from your previous life.
I mean, I think that he's an amazing person, but there are so many other stories as to, and I can't remember them all off the top of my head. My memory is not sharp like that. But there's other stories that are out there about Jesus and like why he was crucified that are outside of and differently interpreted than how you normally hear it interpreted from a Christianity perspective. So I do believe in God. I believe in a higher power. I believe a little bit of each religion. But I believe also that everything revolves around love.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that as Christians we're loving people the way that we should be loving people.
I agree. Definitely agree with that. Can we go back to
Go back
to just something just popped in my head right now. Is a big emphasis on traditional families and the traditional wife, the trad wife. What are your thoughts on that movement to take women? Is it to take them back? But it's not. That's not the term. It is. It's to get them to realize that that's what most men inspire their woman to be like.
traditional.
Yeah.
So what are my thoughts about women being traditional?
Yes, let's start there, and then the movement to take it back.
That's actually the first I've really heard of that.
The trad wife. Okay.
In the way that you posed it.
Okay.
Because I don't think I've heard that.
Okay. Gotcha. All right.
I can still give my opinion on it.
What's your opinion of it?
Like when I hear it, it does sound like taking a step back to me. Because different people, I'm not just going to say women in general, but so many different people have fought to get us to certain places. And to them, it does seem like it's getting back. I think that if men are looking for that, they just need to be upfront about that, like when they're dating. I think that because, as a woman who, like, I'm independent, right? I'm putting food on the table myself. So I'm looking for somebody who is okay with that type of person.
Gotcha.
But I do think it feels like a step back to me. Same as the...
Did you enjoy doing the household things that you were doing for your family and your husband? How much did you...
I hate
what
cleaning.
kind of...
I have a housekeeper. I don't like cooking.
You have a job that cleans stuff. I mean,
Right,
you own a company that
Right,
cleans
and my favorite
things.
chore is actually laundry. So
Okay,
it makes
good.
sense that I would own a laundry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't like cooking. And so after I separated from my ex, like I barely cook at all now, there are some times that I do miss it. But I'm in a completely different season right now than I was then.
Right.
Like I'm literally, back then there was 2 people in the household that
Right.
were taking care of the chores, taking care of the finances and all of that.
Right.
So it was a little bit easier to have time and the mental capacity to plan cooking. And like my mom didn't grow up teaching us cooking.
She
All of
didn't?
that.
Because she cooked? Gotcha.
So we learned on our own. And there were some basic things she taught us. And so that might have been different too, but no.
Yeah.
So I don't cook a lot.
So
that, I guess, does that answer your question?
I just wanted to know what your thoughts were about this taking place. I just think of the women that I've been around, the ones that I actually, I would say the ones that I hold in really high regard. They have a certain independence and they can do a lot of the traditional things, but they don't derive a lot of pleasure out of that. And
Yeah.
I just, I'm drawn to that probably because,
Independent.
yeah, probably because my mom was probably like
Yeah.
that. My mom could do anything.
Yeah.
And she
So
could-
for you, it's okay. You're not.
yeah, she can cook. She can get dressed, be the best looking woman in the room,
Aw.
She could drive a truck.
But it sounds
She'd go
like she's
hunting
doing
with my dad.
everything.
Yeah, she could.
And
yeah,
some of us nowadays are
yeah,
only doing the working side or the...
yeah. Yeah. So I guess that's why I go, oh, okay. Great, you can cook. You do laundry. I could do that at 13 myself.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
What was dating like after? Did you start dating right afterwards? You got married, or did you wait a while, or was it a tough transition? Talk about that.
It was tough. Like
Okay.
I hadn't dated in 20 years for one thing.
Right. And when you did, you didn't actually touch
Exactly.
the person. Go ahead.
So it was definitely a learning curve there.
Yeah.
I dated a lot
Okay.
and was trying to figure life out.
Yeah.
What are men all about? Like,
Right.
what is... It was just a lot.
Right.
Some guys would lead you on, but I didn't know. So I'm just sitting there
Right.
like
Yeah.
thinking that they're into me, but no, it wound up just being a whole situation or I got involved with a married guy for a little while.
Oh my.
Yep. That was not a good situation. He said that he was like a few months he was a few months behind where I was at, how I had like asked for a separation and all of that. And so, but then several months turned into more, and I'm thinking, why you said that you guys were struggling and you were getting ready to go through a divorce yourself.
Right.
Why haven't you yet? But I was not in a good state mentally. And so, you had
a lot to learn.
I did.
Yeah.
And then I was grieving the loss of a 20-year marriage. Like, I never thought that I would go through a divorce. And so the fact that ultimately I felt like I was the one that tore the family apart.
Oh my.
Like, there was a lot of nights that I'm going to use the word wailing.
Really?
Wailing, and I tried to keep it quiet because like my daughters are in the other room or whatever, but it was just like sobbing from grief of that. Not that I would go back, because I was not going back, but that's just like part of the grieving process after having asked for a separation. And so because of that, like I did wind up getting involved with a lot of people that were not healthy for me. I had a lot of trauma bonding. Yeah. Yeah. So it's taken a long time.
Have you ever experienced any, obviously there was some mental abuse.
Yes.
Yeah. So
even in the marriage, it was a little bit of emotional and mental abuse.
Right.
Never physical.
Okay.
He never put a hand on me.
Good.
Yeah. But it was just, like I said, emotional and mental. So then afterwards you were starting to ask me, have I ever, like after...
During the dating, did you have any of those experiences, mental or anybody physically tried to?
I think anybody that is not 100% honest with their intentions is emotionally abusing somebody.
Oh, never thought about it like that.
You're messing with somebody's emotions.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, you're being, yeah.
Because like I'm not being honest or straightforward about my intentions with you, but I'm dragging you along for whatever reason that I see fit, and you're messing with people's emotions.
So you've had situations like that?
I have.
Gotcha.
I have.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's been I had a physical experience. Really? Yeah.
Talk about that.
So as I've gone through the last 4 years, I have...
You're talking about recently?
It was last year.
Really? Okay.
Last year.
Oh, my.
So a year ago. It's been a year now.
Okay.
And I've done a lot of self-work over the last 4 years. When you're coming out of something like that, I never realized this, but my therapist now has like labeled it, I think she calls it complex trauma.
Okay.
Complex trauma. But I would have never like realized that there was a label for, and I'm not big on labels, but I just didn't realize that what I had been through in the religion and that type of religion, that it would affect me in the ways that it did. And so now that I know that, like it does bring awareness. So yes. So I thought that because of all the investing that I had done in myself, the growth that I had experienced, right, what I had been learning, I met a guy and we immediately hit it off, and like we couldn't get enough of each other. And so we continued seeing
That's usually how it starts, but go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I'm like, I could tell that there was some things that were red flags. Not that I didn't have my own, but there was some red flags. And I was like, ooh, well, I've learned this. Maybe I can help him in this instance. And
yeah, see that lack of experience. Yeah, thinking you can help somebody. Yes. Yeah, gotcha.
Yes. So, and my daughters, what's crazy, Al, is my daughters have some more street smarts than I do.
Well, okay, yeah.
I mean,
I can see that.
Yeah. Over the last year, I've picked up a few more, especially after. So I went through a physical assault last year.
Oh, my.
With this particular individual. And we were arguing. I had shared with him some about my past, dating and all of that, which I will never do that again, like go that deep. Like that's my past.
You were innocent and you didn't know. You were just trying to be transparent.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, people can't take that.
100% honest.
People can't take that.
No, they can't. But like, little old me, I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
And so I overshared, and it got me in trouble. So it was, what I had shared was the cause for many arguments between us. And so last summer we were at the oceanfront. We had a little bit too much to drink. We got into an argument, and I was crying because, again, I'm still working on communicating.
Right.
And speaking up. And like this whole podcast right here is like completely out of my comfort zone, but I really...
Oh, you're doing very well.
I really appreciate you like having me on and all of that. And I'm so glad that we've met.
Yeah.
But so I would cry. So we got back to his apartment, and I remember getting in the shower, and I'm just like, tears are streaming down. I don't know what to do. Like, I'm going into fight or flight, which that can be a whole nother conversation, like what fight or flight is. But I'm going into fight or flight, which is when flight is when you just like shut down because you're so scared. Fight is when you're literally like in fight mode with somebody.
Right.
And so I'm just crying. He steps in the shower to start showering off. I step out and I'm like brushing my teeth. And as soon as I'm brushing my teeth, I feel like these hands around my throat, and next thing I know, like I'm dropping my toothbrush on the ground, and I'm being like dragged from the bedroom out the front door, and like I didn't have any clothes on, and then I'm thrown on the ground, and then like he comes down on top of me and just strangles me until I pass out. Whew.
What was the cause of that? What made him do that?
For him, it was anger.
What was he angry about? You were just getting it out of
He was angry about my past because we had gotten into an argument about that. And then whatever happened, every time that we would get into an argument, if I would go into fight or flight, he would take it personal. Like I didn't want to be with him and all of that. And so then he goes into fight or flight. But for him, it's fight.
Yeah.
And behind anger...
Men's, that's usually their first response is anger.
Yes. Yeah. But behind anger is fear.
Right. That's what causes it.
Correct.
You don't know how to deal with fear, so you get angry. Right.
Right. And so I like came to, I didn't have any clothes on, but I saw he had brought my bag out. So I grabbed a dress and I put it on.
Oh, I am so sorry you went through that. It's terrible.
It is terrible, Al, but I'm going to be 100% honest with you. If I had not have gone through that, I probably would have still continued seeing him. But what it did was it propelled me forward. Like I had to go inward at that point in time. And I had to look at myself and say, Megan, what is going on like up here?
Yeah.
That would cause you to stay in this type of situation, that you would literally put your life at risk. Yeah. And like my daughters had even expressed some concern to me about him. Wow. And I just, yeah.
Wow.
So that was a year ago, and I have not seen him since. I have a protective order out.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't want I don't want to hear anything terrible happening to you.
Yeah.
So
my dating experiences have been interesting.
Yes. Well,
but the therapy has really helped.
Right.
And I know more my own worth now, and I am learning to communicate better.
Yeah.
And speaking up for what I want, what I need, and it's much better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us, what's next? What do you plan on doing next?
Well, I'm dating. So like I'm dating. I'm seeing somebody right now. So we'll see how that goes. But as far as like professionally,
yeah.
I am opening up a second business, White Sage.
Okay.
And I would
talk about White Sage.
Yeah, White Sage is a mind, body, soul wellness studio. And inside, like once you come in, it's going to be a small cafe where they'll have coffee and smoothies and maybe a few like pastries or something like that. And then there will be a studio, and the studio will be for dance or yoga or workshops. And then there will be other smaller rooms for different modalities. You could have facials, massages. You could do Reiki energy healing because I'm very much into energy. You could, let's see what else, do sound healing in some of those rooms. And then as well as like all of those things, there will be a salt cave. And so a salt cave, what that is it is a room that aesthetically looks like a cave.
Okay.
And so there are salt particles that are put into the air, and it's really good for your skin, good for your respiratory system. And then, of course, when you're in there, you can either meditate. Some people will do yoga in there. Some people will do a sound bath in there. Some people will sleep. Some people will sleep. And so, yeah, so that's what White Sage is going to be.
So what inspired that?
Oh, so I would say,
story?
No,
Okay.
I'll be real quick.
Okay.
So over the last year after my incident, and just even over the 4 years since my divorce, and just really finding myself, I just think that there is a lot to share with other people.
Gotcha.
And so I love sharing. And then, yes, after my incident last year with the strangulation and going into therapy and all of that, I have just really wanted to do something, a business from the heart, something that like I'm passionate about. And I'm very passionate about healing and your spiritual journey. And I love like business also.
Yes.
So at some point in time, I may
Obviously,
even,
you're at it.
right.
You're good at it.
Right.
You started 2 in 4 years.
I may do like
Well,
some kind of spiritual
started one
business
and
coaching.
And you're about to start another.
Yes. So we'll see. But that's
That
what
would be
inspired
awesome.
me. Spiritual business coaching.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. But yeah, just the healing and just helping people
Okay.
is what inspired me.
I forgot to mention
What?
when you said dance, I thought about it.
What?
You're a belly dancer too, right?
I do love belly dancing.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yes, I love belly dancing.
I don't think I've ever met anybody that has done that.
I'm still a little shy. I'm still a little shy when it comes to that. But after I had asked for the divorce, I was abandoned by most of my church friends. So I needed community. And I enrolled at a local dance studio, and a wonderful lady there named Nadira worked the front desk.
Yeah.
And so she was like, Megan, you should come to my belly dance class sometimes. Yeah. And so I did. I popped in there, and belly dance was great because it's all about isolation. Right. And since I had never danced or done anything sensual like that, like I could just work on like moving this or like doing a hip shimmy, that kind of thing. Yeah. One thing at a time. Yeah. Right. So it was just really good. And belly dance, any kind of dance really gets you in tune with your body. And so many of us are disconnected from our body. And as women, our bodies are our sensual powerhouses. And so the more we can be in tune with them and connected to them,
gotcha.
You know, the more, I believe, the more power we have.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do know of that studio, that wonderful little studio you're talking about.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
Mamba Room?
Yeah.
Mamba Room. Shout out to Mamba Room.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So, any last thoughts before we sign off here? Or
I'll just say again, like what I said earlier, and that was that I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity.
Uh-oh.
And
thank you.
Yeah.
Because I think you're going to help quite a few people.
I hope so. Yeah.
So that concludes today's episode of Listen Up. You know what? We need to know before we sign off.
Yeah.
Where can people be able to contact you about the laundry, your elite laundry? Yeah. Where can they reach you at there?
So if you go to my Instagram.
Okay.
Which, if you type in MEGZ.
Okay.
Stover, Megs Stover.
Okay.
On my Instagram, well, you'll see all of my stuff that I post. all of my
Oh, yeah, you'll see it
inspirational
all.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. But then on my Instagram, I do have my link for Elite Laundry and for White Sage up there. And then like if you go to either of those pages, then like you could send me a direct message.
Okay.
But yes.
Okay. Awesome. So that concludes today's episode of Listen Up. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Listen Up.